it's on there.
Yeah,
It's a MacBook Pro, but
it's a workhorse, but yeah.
it is. All right, so we're live. I'm here with Professor Pete.
What's up, guys?
We're just gonna test this real quick, make sure we're live, and then we're off to the races. As always, I try and be as efficient with this as possible. Make sure the sound's okay. I'm sure there's a way better process to do this, but yeah, sounds good. I just turned it up a second, so we're just gonna see if it sounds better, just because we're stepped away a little bit. Ah, Professor Turtle. Oh, Joe Lay's already on.
I knew Joe Lee would be right there. Probably took off of work.
Yeah. I just turned it up a second, so we're just gonna see if it sounds better. Cool. We're done. We're off to the races.
Cool.
Awesome. Professor, thanks for coming in again, man. This is awesome. It's been we were just talking the other day, actually. You know, we had Professor Ricardo here on Thursday.
Which, by the way, thanks for making me follow Ricardo.
Oh, yeah.
Like come on,
right.
man.
Right. He said, I mean, well, who's next? Matakis?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
And then we had Professor Dante here on Monday. And, you know, I was just kind of saying to our students, I'm like, man, like, I appreciate this, like our lineage and our association and the people that we just get to pick up the phone and say hi and be like, hey, do you mind coming in and teaching? And like, it's like that. And it's always a privilege and an honor to have teachers and instructors like yourself or Professor Dante, Professor Bongiorno, Professor Batakis, DeBlas, like you name it. Like it's if you don't live, and I've seen this, like I've heard from people who are like on the West Coast and they hear of the names and the people around. It's like, man, we're lucky. We're
lucky.
Yeah, we are.
The funny thing, you said the West Coast, where like you throw a baseball, you're gonna hit a legend.
Yeah.
It's not really like that around here, right? So like we're actually lucky that we're like in the middle of this nest of legends that doesn't really exist in the whole Northeast.
Right.
Outside of like Henzo's, right?
Right. Yeah, and so speaking of which, you grew up in Rockland County, New York, right? Just north of New Jersey, about half an hour, 40 minutes from New York City.
Yep.
So I know that obviously you've been training in martial arts since 5-6 years old.
Yeah.
Can you take us back, like what you remember first starting, what your motivations were, what you remember?
So I'm lucky. My uncle owned a school when I was a little kid, and it was kind of like I was born in '84. That's when Karate Kid came out, which changed everything.
Yeah.
You know, like how old are you, man?
I'm 40.
Yeah. So you're like, you know,
I'm
when you're a little
kid.
kid, that was like the height of the Karate Kid. That kind of like was an explosion of martial arts. And my uncle was a big part of that, opened his school. And so as a little kid going to my grandma's house, you can imagine going into his room. And he was only 16 years older than me. So like he was young and vibrant. And he would have like ninja stars in his room and like wooden swords and like martial arts posters. So it was just like a dreamland for a 5-6-year-old lunatic like myself who wanted to be a Ninja Turtle.
Yeah.
And he had a school, but he didn't have kids. He didn't train kids yet. And one time my cousins flew in from like Utah, and they were like 5-6 years older than me. And he let them take class. And I was in like the lobby punching and kicking, and he's watching me, making fun of me. But he saw how serious I was about it. He let me jump in, and I did such a good job, naturally, that he started a kids program. Like he let me start training, built a kids program, and that's kind of how I started, man.
And what was the discipline again?
We split the year. Half the year was Kenpo karate.
Oh, cool.
And half the year was long fist, like wushu, like kung fu.
Okay.
Like Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So you started around 5-6 years old doing that, and did it through middle school or?
So I kind of like would come and go. The first like 3-4 years I was like dead serious, like 4 times a week. That's all I did. And then by the time I was like 10, that's like Little Giants came out. And I wanted to be like the football kid. So I would leave for a couple months and play football, come back. Leave for a couple months, play baseball, come back. By the time I was in middle school, sports got way more serious. You know? So like I was never away for more than like a year or two.
Yeah.
And even if it was like coming back for a class,
yeah,
I would always come back until like I guess we'll say puberty and like girlfriends and things like that. That kind of pulled me away for a few years there, but by the time I was 16, I was back to like full on. I was teaching. I was training a little bit of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And I was back.
Yeah. I'm going to pull this out. I just realized, I'm like, oh man, I got this as quiet as possible. Yeah. And then there's like a water fountain right here. It just starts going off. So it's interesting too. And I'm not going to try and divert too much, but you notice that also obviously like with running a school, like when kids get to that 13, some of them,
the hardest age, man.
Yeah.
It's the hardest age.
Yeah.
It's weird. When we were at South Broad Street at RABJJ, we had this huge crop of like 13, 14-year-olds. And it was the only time I think, and I've been doing this a long time professionally, like both at Ricardo's, my own school, and then with my uncle. I've never seen a school with a robust population of like 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
We had a good one for a while, and then they started splitting up, getting too cool for school, starting bands and like going their separate ways. But it's hard. Yeah,
I noticed that with us too. Like we got a decent juniors program, so to speak, but you can see where they start.
They're no man's land, Like we have like 4 or 5 14-year-olds right now.
Yeah.
And they're 6 feet tall. They weigh 115 pounds. So they can't train with 10-year-olds. And luckily we have adults, as you do, I'm sure, that are awesome at like mentoring and taking care of them. But they know that it's not like, I guess we'll say real. They know that the adult is holding back. And it's tough. It's gotta be tough.
It's a tough age. So obviously you started going through your teen years, and then how did things progress for you in terms of your relationship with martial arts going into your high school years or beyond that?
So UFC came out when I was in college. So I was teaching for a little bit in high school. And then again, kind of like went away back to sports, getting really serious about sports and my friends. And
real quick, what did you play?
I played football, and then I played
in high school.
Yeah,
nice.
So I stopped playing football junior year, and I was all about lacrosse. Like I was really big into lacrosse, which a lot of people don't even know about. It's kind of growing, but
see, I don't know. Like, I mean, New Jersey, we had when I was growing up around that time, we didn't have many lacrosse programs. Yeah. Like Ridgewood had like a big. I mean, Ridgewood was a big school in Bergen County. They had a lacrosse program, but there was really no lacrosse in Bergen County high school.
It's crazy because it's like the coolest sport, but it's exploding now.
Yeah.
But man, I stayed away for a while until college, and then one fateful night, I turned on Spike TV, and the cool thing is, like, I'm one of the few kids who at 8 years old knew what UFC 1 was, because my uncle had the VHS tapes in his room, and we weren't allowed to, but we'd sneak up and watch because he was living at my grandma's. He was young. I knew what it was, and like I would occasionally see it on like some random obscure sports channel. I'd be like, "It's MMA." Like I know what that is. And as a martial artist growing up, it wasn't that mainstream. You always feel separate, like something they don't know. It's like when you go to the mall and you're wearing your red shield, something they don't know.
Right.
I always had that. And then when I saw it on Spike TV, like the reality show, The Ultimate Fighter, I was like, whoa, man. It just reinvigorated everything. And in all honesty, in college, I got into like a lot of scraps. I was fighting a lot, which is nothing I'm proud of. But it is what it is. And when that kind of came out, that just reinvigorated. I just knew I was going back. Like I knew that was what I was going to do. And like all my friends in college were like, you should do that. You should do that. And I literally thought it was as easy as like, yeah, I know how to fight. I could go do that. Like when I got home from college, before I even me and my uncle we lost touch for a few years. I lost touch with in college. You're just on an island,
right?
Know? But when I graduated college, I came home and I remember sitting in my dad's room on his like archaic computer. It took me like 10 minutes to load up the website for MMA in New Jersey. And I literally was just trying to sign up. I was like, where do I sign up for a fight? And
you wanted to like fight?
I wanted to fight. Yeah. Because I was beating people up in the bar. And, I was just outside the martial arts for so long that I was demented. I was an idiot. And then I called my uncle, and he was like, and we hadn't talked for a while, but he's like, hey, go to this website. And I bring up the website, and it's just MMA pictures. And in hindsight, I know what it was. It was when Dante Rivera fought Alexis Aquino, which was like one of the biggest fights in New Jersey at the time, because they were the guys. Like, you just had Dante here. Like, people I don't think they know he's a pioneer, a huge pioneer of Jersey MMA. And there was like a brawl after the fight because there was a lot of bad blood, and that's just in 2007. That's kind of what happened in New Jersey MMA events. There was always like kind of like brawl.
Not necessarily very professionally put together, or
it was just like, because nobody was really you couldn't make a living doing it. I think it was just the guys were still just brawlers who were fighting in a cage. There was a lot of bad blood, I would say. And he was like, look at one of these pictures, and my uncle was in the cage. And that was his way of saying, like, this is what we're doing now. Like, I know these guys. I'm training with these guys. Check out this website, RicardoAlmeida.com. And that was my intro to, like, actual MMA and actual, like, Gracie Barra Jiu Jitsu, like, from the source. He brought me down Tuesday morning. I met Ricardo, and that literally was it. That was
Drove down to Hamilton?
Yep.
Nice.
From New York, which I did for, like, a year.
So you were commuting from Rockland
115
County.
miles one way.
Oh yeah, I know.
I was sleeping on a blow-up mattress on my dad's house.
Yeah.
Which had 3 holes in it. I would wake up at 3 a.m. every morning because it'd be flat to the floor, and I would put the pump back in and hope that I could make it to the morning.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you originally came to Professor's with MMA in mind. So
no, yeah, I guess I wanted to be in the world. That martial arts world was just so appealing to me my entire life.
So talk to me about, the first
walking in.
Yeah, walking in, your experiences in the first few months and years there. Like, what was it like?
Man, my experience was very different from anybody's. And I went Day morning, and like years back, there was a professional fight league called the IFL. And International Fight League. So every like city had a team.
I was gonna say it was teams,
it was
right?
Cool, man. It was a good, like, they had a good idea. It just didn't pan out.
Yeah.
Henzo had a team, of course. It was the Pit Bulls, of course. But they actually didn't train at Henzo's. They trained under Ricardo. At Ricardo's, like, in conjunction with Henzo. But I walk in, it's a Tuesday morning, pro training, the Pit Bull team. And I'm wearing literally my cutoff sweatpants that I still own, I still wear.
That's great.
And like a tight Under Armour shirt, and it was just, I did not deserve, like, I shouldn't have been welcome there. But Ricardo jumps off the mat. Hey, Ricardo Almeida, nice to meet you. Which I've heard him say 2 million times. Ricardo Almeida, welcome to the school. Nice to meet you. I was like, holy shit, this is craziness. They let me train. Everybody was super nice to me, treated me with like kid gloves, as they should have, except for Leandro. To this day, I try to murder Leandro every time, because I will never forget. That was my experience. So my experience wasn't like an intro class, wasn't in a key. Man, it was
just got thrown in with the
not even thrown in. Like, I don't want to paint the picture that like I was scrapping with Fabio Leopoldo and like these guys, because I wasn't scrapping with them. Some of the guys like would put it on me a little bit, but none of them like gave me the beating I deserved. But it was Tuesday, Thursday mornings. That's my intro to Professor Almeida and RIBJJ. Until a few months later, I would make it so I could take the noon class. And then that was it, man.
It's funny too. It just reminded me of like just a thought that I always have in the back of my head is like, and maybe I'm sure this is the same case with schools, other schools around the country, but not all of them, in that you could be in a room at, Professor Ricardo's with literally some of the most dangerous murderers, like people that can literally kill you with their bare hands, and not come across a nicer group of people, a more compassionate, friendly group of people. And it's such a misconception, I think, sometimes, that I think just is what martial arts teaches you, right? You can have that level of intensity and you can have these skills, but that doesn't mean you can't be a super nice, compassionate person.
I mean, it's correlated because, I mean, I'll tell you this. I grew up in Rockland County. Like I came from a pretty rough place. Like I grew up in a trailer park. I went to like a pretty rough like middle school for a little while before we moved, and people just fought. Like that's what they did. Like kids fought, and like I grew up hearing stories about, not even from my dad, but from other people, that my dad fought a lot and my brother fought a lot, and like I'm not gonna say we valued it, but it was like part of that place and that time, like being a fighter. And so in college, that persona went with me. And you get into one fight, and what happens?
Then
you're
known,
the fighter.
Yeah, you're known.
You're the fighter. So then you end up having to do that more and more. The day I went and met Professor Almeida, I never got into another fight again. And one of the things you realize is, why do you fight? Why do you fight in college? Because you're scared. You're intimidated. You want people to be afraid of you because you're scared.
Yeah.
And these fighters, they don't need to fight anybody because they're not scared of anybody.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I'm also like romanticizing it. The truth is, like, these guys didn't need to beat me up because they were probably saving their energy for the real round they're about to have next.
Right.
But there's compassion there when you know how fragile the human body is.
Yeah.
And when you're not intimidated. You
don't
need to beat people
up. I went to this training institute recently with this group called A Call to Men, which talks about like healthy masculinity, healthy manhood. Mm-hmm. It's just trying to talk about things that we've dealt with for a long time. And one of the things I always remember that they said is anger is usually a secondary reaction to pain or fear. Right. So people are usually they're angry, or they're expressing that because deep down they're probably fearful of something, or they're in pain.
Yeah, they don't like a feeling, and that's how it is.
Yeah, and so that and a lot of times for men in general, that's kind of the only emotion we're kind of allowed to show, or like we feel like
is anger.
You can't show vulnerability, but like a lot of us feel like, oh, if we're going to show emotion, we're going to show, anger or whatever it may be. But so you started there and then started training, getting more into instructing at some point in time. How did your path go there?
So
and what year are we now? And when you first showed up
2007. I graduated college 2007. Did a seminar that Saturday with Hoyler. And then that was it, man. I just knew. But luckily I didn't get a job because I was unqualified and nobody wanted to hire me. I wanted to be in publishing because I love books and reading. And I was like, if there's only two careers I would have accepted for myself is reading books professionally and teaching martial arts. The first one didn't happen easily. So the second one actually happened pretty smoothly. But I was, that summer I was lifeguarding, just training. And we would wake up at 6 a.m. in New York. My uncle would pick me up, or I'd meet him at his school. We would drive down together to Hamilton. I would train in the morning from like 9 to like 11 with the Pitbull team. And then I would go and we would do instructor training at Satori Academy in East Brunswick, which is, if anybody in the martial arts world knows this name, Dave Kovar. He's like, man, as legit as they come. Yeah. He's done more in terms of like growing the martial arts professionally than anyone.
I love some of his posts and things that he does. He's incredible. Absolutely.
He's an impressive guy.
Yeah.
And I'm not easily he's impressive.
Yeah.
Like Ricardo's impressive. Like these people, you just know when you're around him. He's impressive. But he was part of this venture where they tried to expand his West Coast based school into the East Coast. And at the time there were like 3 schools that it wasn't working out very well. So my uncle, we were like trying to do instructor training to like help build up a team. And, everybody just kind of left, like the co-owner left, and it left this void where Kyoshi Kovar was stuck with like, I guess you could say stuck with like this lease, and he's on the West Coast. So they put me in there, just kind of like teach out the lease for a couple months. But I just kind of, it grew, like we did really well. So I would train in the morning at Ricardo's. I would sleep on that net, teach at night at Satori, and then I would drive home. And I did that for like a year and a half. And then after a year and a half of doing that, training in the morning with Professor Almeida and sleeping and teaching, he offered me a job because, there's no better way to learn than that year of being on an island in East Brunswick at Satori by myself. Just learn how to do it. So it all worked out perfectly well.
So obviously you continued teaching at Professors and seemed like you were heading up the kids program for at some point in time.
Yeah, man. Again, that I lucked out with a lot of great opportunities like that. I'll say I didn't deserve, but they all panned out for everybody involved. So like, I guess it worked out. But we didn't really have a kids program when I first started. They had like a parent-child class, which after like 2 weekends it was a Sunday morning class. I was like, Professor, can I just get rid of the parents? Like they're in the way.
Yeah.
But at the time, like the one thing I will toot my horn about is like in a lot of ways I kind of pioneered teaching jiu-jitsu to kids. Like in 2007, 2008, like there weren't many schools that were even doing it.
Yeah.
Nobody was doing it well. It was pretty goofy. It was games. And one thing I did is I took the traditional martial arts like structure and applied that to jiu-jitsu. And man, the program grew from like 7 kids into like 150 in the first like year. It was those days on Broad Street were pretty special. It was really cool, man.
Yeah. And so for me, I remember my kids still remember you like as their first instructor. It was awesome, man. You were obviously and still are an incredible instructor and kids instructor. And I always found it was so amazing to watch. You know, it's an intimidating thing to come into, even for kids sometimes, just coming into this place. And there's all these people that are already doing it and they got their belts on there, different colors and the ability to make that kid or even that adult feel and relax and start to get in it is you know, that's a skill set that not necessarily everyone has. And it was awesome. And you know, honestly, we were bummed in some ways. We were really happy for you when you went and opened up your school. You know, it was awesome. And but at the same time, it's like, oh man, we're losing Professor Pete.
I get that.
Yeah. But you know, Max took over at that time, and Max also did a great job as well. So I'm gonna guess. So when you opened your school in 2015, when did 14?
Yeah, coming up on 6 years.
That's amazing, man. I remember that was literally yesterday. Having your first couple classes there, and it's always cool. Like what I love about the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community, and also specifically Professor Ricardo and everyone underneath him, is that the network and the community there, and having obviously known, like when anybody would open up a school, like you knew it's kind of that, not that pay it forward, but the support. Go support those instructors, and you know, getting bodies on the mats and helping out
That's huge.
Yeah, it's huge, right? Because
it's like lonely.
I'm sure.
Being on like rolling out a brand new mat is exciting, and like the smell is great, and like it looks beautiful, and then like it's down and you're sitting there and you're like, oh my God, I'm by myself. This is like terrifying.
Yeah.
But like what you said, I had like a dozen guys coming down first couple weeks. Everybody did that for you, right? Like it's like an unspoken thing.
Yeah.
I never even ask.
Yeah.
They just show up. Like it's really special.
So let's step back two steps here and talk to me about your thought process. And obviously at this point you're saying, man, you're in this, you love it. It's been, you know, something you've been doing for a while, obviously resonated with you to the core. Got your black belt. Was it kind of okay? Was it always on your mind? This was what you wanted to do? Or at what point, you know, did you say, look, when time is ready, like I want to open up my own school?
I mean, it was never like a question. First off, it was even the day Ricardo hired me. Like we knew that was the goal. Like I was going to open up a school. I knew that forever. Things started to, like it used to be when I first came around, people could open a school as like a purple belt, no big deal.
Oh wow.
It was pretty common. Like I think Tom DeBlas opened as a purple belt. Like Haas was a purple belt. But then it just started to change. Like there's so many good jiu-jitsu schools around, and like the level was kind of raised. It was just like when you get your black belt, you open your school now. Yeah. So it was literally like I got my black belt December 7th, the day which will live in infamy. And then like January 5th, Ricardo's like, okay, man, it's time to go.
Yeah.
You know? But we knew, like I knew. And he's always been the mentor you needed, whether it was like tough love or not. And usually it was tough love, which is good because that's the mentor I need. Like I don't do well with like the hand holding and the rah-rah cheerleader. And if you don't know Professor Almeida, that is not him.
Right.
Which is good though. I like that. I was trying to like dip my toe. I was like, I'll just open up and I'll teach my classes 2 days a week and I'll be here 3 days a week. He's like, no, man.
You gotta go all in.
It's time.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah.
But it was the best thing, you know, just going.
So talk to me about those that early time setting up, being an entrepreneur, obviously, like, as you know, like, you only eat what you catch, right? It's like there's sometimes it's can be a difficult transition, and for even many years, so talk to me about that process and just kind of what you're going through, some of what were some of your early struggles or things that you had to adapt to, some learnings and things of that nature.
I mean, I wish I had some like gritty moments and things like that, but the truth is, like, from the day I signed the lease, things were just smooth sailing. Like, just show. I mean, if you put in the work and you live it, and like, I get people that call me all the time, and I'm sure you do too. People that want to open a school and they're asking you all the ins and outs, and these people, like, I ask them this now: is it inevitable? Is it inevitable? Like, what does that mean? Like, are you going to open the school no matter what? Like, come hell or high water? If not, like, there's nothing I can tell you. Like, sometimes it seems like people are looking to me to convince them to open a school. And I can't do that. Like, if it's inevitable, I can tell you some of the things that I've done. And that was kind of it. Like, I opened the school, and my life was, how do I make jiu-jitsu more accessible? How do I make my school more appealing? How do I refine myself as a communicator? Every day was just dedicated to that. And it worked.
Yeah. It's, so how has, now that you've been a school owner for 6 years, what has changed in terms of how your relationship with jiu-jitsu, and how has it changed you in any way in terms of what has it added to your life as a practitioner, as a person?
Right.
What are some of the things that has changed from January of 2014 or to now?
That's a good question, man, because I'm kind of like, it's always in flux. Like, my relationship to it has changed in relation to the demand that the school asks of me. Like, the first 2-3 years, we didn't really have a solid instructor team yet, obviously. So I was teaching a lot more. My mindset was different in terms of, like, just being at the school. Like, it was completely 100%. How do I make sure classes are perfect? How do I make sure everything is clean? But now with this I have an amazing staff.
I have an amazing staff.
And I lucked out. Didn't really happen by accident. You're always looking, right? You're always working on it. But I did luck out. As I always say, you can't polish a turd, right? That's one of my favorite sayings.
Right.
But now that, like, I have a little bit more freedom in terms of, like, my daily day-to-day stuff at the school, man, I fell back. I never fell out of love with jiu-jitsu, but I'm like a giddy little schoolgirl again. I'm so excited.
Yeah, because you probably have been able to, not to say delegate, but a lot of those things that you had to be spent your time and your energy on, right? Because you got to be in it. And that's the way that when we opened here, I took the position as program director, because, obviously we had Professor Turtle as the head instructor. It's a little bit of a different dynamic. Right. But so my goal was, I want to learn anything and everything on how these schools run. So, like, you're in that whirlwind every single day. You have to be. Yeah. And it's great, because this is where you learn and become, an expert in how to run a school in every single aspect. But so it seems to me, obviously now, like, you're kind of, 6 years in, got a great school, amazing students, amazing instructors. You now have more time to write, to read, to probably. So yeah, talk to me a little bit about that. Like, what are you doing these days?
I mean, a lot of it is an illusion. Like, one of the things I heard about, I get this from my uncle, which was one of the greatest mentors I could have asked for. Black belt in a lot of ways is just like the illusion of effortlessness.
Yeah.
It's an illusion. Like, no role is easy, right? And no life is really easy. Like, I have a lot more freedom in terms of the school, but that just means I'm just not at the school, like, cleaning the floors. Like, I'm still, like, going crazy about how do I make jiu-jitsu more accessible? How do I refine my curriculum? Like, that work never ends. Like, so in terms of bandwidth, I wouldn't say I have more freedom. I'm trying to add in more places where I can read. I'm back to reading a lot more. But I'm back to being a student again. Like, I would say this, probably my main responsibility right now as the school owner is, of course, like, the marketing stuff, like my online presence.
Yeah.
But now I'm back to being a student, like, because my student base is growing and they're becoming advanced students. So like this is the first time in my entire career where I'm responsible for brown belts. That was always Ricardo. Like I always like acquiesced to that, of course. I never taught brown belts and was responsible for like long-term growth. So now it's like I'm learning worm guard and like the Danaher stuff, and
yeah,
I'm back to being a student. And luckily my body is good enough and healthy enough where like I can also be their teammate. It's just exciting, man.
Yeah,
I feel it feels
awesome.
like the old days. You know?
That's awesome. So speaking of about body,
Yeah.
right? So you're 36?
35.
35.
Come on,
sorry,
Leonardi.
okay. Sorry, my math is off. You'll be 36 this year?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm 40 and I haven't been doing jiu-jitsu as long as you. 9 years I've been doing it. Actually, my first, it's funny, I took my first intro class. First person I see and take my intro class from was, of course, Professor Dante, which was always entertaining. That was about 11 years ago, but then we had a newborn at the time. My wife's like, "Are you crazy? Like, where are you going to get this time from?" I'm like, "Okay." So I came back 2 years later. But I'm 40 now. I've been doing it for 9 years, and we just talked about this off screen before. Like, got to be conscious. I want to be doing this for as long as I possibly can. And
longevity is the key.
Longevity. So now my focus, I'm paying a lot more attention to what I'm putting in my body, what my body feels like the next day, because it doesn't feel like what it used to feel like for me. So talk to me about consciously, what have you been kind of experiencing and doing to try and keep that longevity as much as possible?
I'm back to like strength training a little bit with the kettlebell, which anybody who knows me, I'm very vocal about that. I got away from it a little while, but I notice, I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, but like if I stay away from, if I lose any kind of weight, I'm injury prone. Like pop ribs, my knees bother me, my shoulders start to go.
Yeah.
So if I'm a little bit heavier, I feel like I have a little bit more armor. I always eat clean, man. I've always been like a pretty clean eater. But the biggest thing for me in terms of longevity is like just the mindset and training. Like I'm okay, and I've always been okay with this. And I will say this, like a lot of my peers don't train anymore. Like a lot of the guys that I came up with cannot train anymore. Like they've trained themselves out of it. And it's nice to look back at the old days and be like, I was the toughest guy on the mat, but what good is that if you're the only guy on the couch? You know what I mean? So just knowing when to pick and choose my partners, when it's time to like go as hard as I can and when it's not. The good thing is like when you're at a certain skill level, you can protect yourself easier, and you can just work on one technique. So if I'm only working on guillotines, I protect myself until I get a guillotine. And when the training session's over, I'm not spent. I'm not like destroyed.
Yeah.
But longevity, like everything I do, listening to my body, not forcing anything. And sauna.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm a huge fan of the sauna. I almost want to get one for
I'm going to get one for the house.
Yeah. So I was about to say, like,
There's no science though behind the infrared ones yet.
Yeah. I don't
only get to like 140 or.
With we have one at our gym, and I don't get there enough. I would love to put one like in my basement.
I would probably do it twice a day.
Yeah, it's fan. It's some of my favorite times. It's like just I can't explain it as much as it's just it's very peaceful for me too, and I feel great afterwards. And
the problem is it's getting with Joe Rogan and like Rhonda Patrick, it's getting mainstream.
Yeah.
So now I go in the gym. There's like 19 guys in there.
Yeah.
They're all like, on their phones and it's just the etiquette has gone out the window.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's out of control.
Yeah. No, I hear that. So going back to in terms of like how you roll and just lessons and things. And, we deal with this here sometimes too, in terms of training etiquette and trying to avoid injury and instilling into our students, the right way to train, understanding context, who you're training with, communicating with your partners. Do you have any observations works better with like drilling into their head? Like, hey, this is probably the best way to try and go about training to protect yourself, protect your partner, be a good training partner, all those things. 'Cause we talk about it all the time. Every single live round, protect your partner, communicate, whatever it is. But there's always naturally, obviously, we're dealing with humans here, right? There's always going to be variations and diversions of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's different for depending on what level we're talking about. Like if it's a beginner class and they're going to go live, like luckily we we introduce them to live training through positional training first.
That's what we do, yeah.
So when you take out as many moving parts as possible, like my best friend is half guard for beginners, because you could put two incompetent psychopaths in half guard and nobody's going to get hurt because it's just the way their bodies are entwined. So we don't spend, it depends on every situation, but if it's beginners, I will demonstrate, I will literally show them like what not to do. So I'll play the part of the fool. They've got to be doing it, and you got to catch them doing it right and point it out, and you got to catch them doing it wrong. Like it's the watchful eye, really.
Yeah.
Because you can give them a list of rules.
Yeah.
And they're going to follow it until the guy starts to pass their guard.
Yeah.
Right.
What about, for some of your students that are competitors and finding, do you guys have like a kind of, because you're a little bit of an older school now, I think you have your advanced classes where some more of your competitors are there and they're knowing that's where they can get their training, in terms of their competitive rounds and having the right level of partner there to give them those good looks. Is that kind of where, usually typically have more on the advanced classes that you get more of that type of level of
like intensity?
Yeah, intensity.
Yeah, well, we have competition class. If there's like a big tournament coming up and we have like a dozen guys, we'll do comp classes. But the truth is, like, Randori is like, and man, it's just weird. Like, it's cyclical. Sometimes the entire school is training at like 7,000 RPMs, and that's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
And maybe it's top down, maybe it's trickled down from me because I'm excited, like I'm really in it and I'm going as hard as I can. I'm working on things. But like Monday, Wednesday, Saturday are our advanced classes, and it's like Abu Dhabi trials every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday right now. And that trickles down. Luckily, we're very, very big. Like, the culture is all about consideration. And the word is consideration, because intensity, you don't want intensity to wane. You don't want to have to drop the intensity, because you can handle it as long as you're not hurting each other, right? So the word is really consideration. So you need to run a filter through your head. If I go for this back take, what's the likelihood that I knee him in his head? If it's anything above 0, like, you're not doing it. But that comes with time.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Then naturally, there's obviously, no matter what, you're going to have some instances once in a while where you got to, like you said, keep that watchful eye and guide as best as you can.
And like, if you have a good, healthy culture and you're a good leader, which I hope I am, like, you can make an example of someone. You can chastise somebody. Man, public ridicule is this is awful to say, but with the adults, it's good. Public ridicule is the most effective tool. Like, you have to do it with the right. Dante is better than anyone. Dante, nobody is better than Dante. Yeah. So if you do something stupid around Dante, he's going to make a joke out of it in front of everybody. It's going to be the funniest thing anybody heard all day, but you're never going to forget it. And it's going to modify your behavior, which is the most important part.
Yeah.
So it's a fine line as an instructor. Like, I would never like, hey, you're an idiot. But if you can make a joke about it, but use it as a teaching point, then it modifies the behavior.
Yeah. So you talked about culture twice. You were mentioning that. How important do you feel culture is in the school in terms of its level of, I say, success? And success can be defined in many different ways, but how big of a part do you think culture plays overall?
It's everything. That when I have instructor training, the number one thing I tell my guys is your value as an instructor is your ability to build rapport. So it's like you said, like when I was teaching the kids classes, how good I was at. That's really what my skill set is. Like, anybody can teach an armbar. It's your ability to build rapport, and it's your ability on a bigger level. Like, as your school grows, it gets more and more difficult. So it's really your ability to kind of, like, I don't know, navigate your relationships with your top guys. Then, it's trickle down.
Yeah.
Man.
I call it force multipliers sometimes too. Like, creating force multipliers. Like, if you're doing your good job as the leader, right, and you're serving them and you're instilling into them that culture and how everything works, and you got 5 guys, now those 5 guys go out and they start, impacting 5 other people.
Guys, and then there's no limit.
Yeah.
That's how you get to a 500 student school.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you see it all the time. Like you see like really good jiu-jitsu guys who are even like good people and they're like exciting to be around, and they get stuck at like 100 students, or they get stuck at like 150. And the truth is, like, it's culture. It's only culture, because we all teach the armbar. We all teach the back break fall. We all even can teach De La Riva guard as well as anybody else. That's not what this is.
Yeah.
It's your ability to, like, I don't know, push the culture in the right, and make it like so people are excited to be around each other.
Yeah. And emotion is contagious. Like, it's something that I've seen. Like, we talk about, like, when everybody walks through the door, like, man, they will mirror whatever that whatever vibe you're giving off, whatever.
Be the thermostat, not the thermometer.
There you go. And it's I agree with you. Like, I can't even tell you how much I agree with you on this one. 1,000%, 1,000,000%. I have found with Gracie Barra and this is that literally it is everything. Yes, like you said, yeah, we got to know how to teach and teach good jiu-jitsu, and even just, you know, basic fundamental stuff.
Right.
It matters. Like, you know, obviously having structure, I've gotten that feedback, like having a curriculum, people can understand.
Everybody learned that.
Yeah.
10 years ago, people didn't know that.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
You needed structure. That's why Professor Almeida was one of the biggest schools. He had the structure.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that now.
Yeah.
But now it's, what can you do with the culture?
Right. Right. It's crazy too. I've gone to other schools where there's, like, you know, just like I used to travel a lot, and I'd drop into a school, not a necessarily a GB or anything, just like someone, and like, it just was very, you know, different experience. I'm like, is this how like other schools are? And like, and I guess a good portion back then, you know, when I say back then, but, you know, 6, 7, 8 years ago,
which these days is a lifetime.
It is.
It's crazy how things change so quickly now.
Yeah, it's the sport and the art is evolving like drastically, and on the whole spectrum, I say. And it's like, I was thinking about this as ecosystem. Like, I love seeing every ADCC that comes up, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so, you know, obviously the more people that we get into jiu-jitsu and make it inclusive and make it for everyone, like you're saying, that's something that you focus on. I think one of the things that I've loved about GB is that it's always kind of created that it's jiu-jitsu for everyone. That's like their thing. Now, we know jiu-jitsu is not for everyone, but the idea is that anybody could step on the mat initially. Right now, it starts to filter out, and there's a lot of people that will never step on the mat. That what frustrates me sometimes is I know that this person, like, if they just kind of like get past that initial barrier of like stepping through the doors and see what it really is at the end of the day, I know that's going to help that person. And
that's the biggest challenge.
That's the code that needs to be cracked.
Yeah,
right.
And that's all I think about. Anything I do on social, like I was just talking to Matakis about this.
Yeah.
Like anything I do on social media, every time I do like even a blog post or a video or any kind of picture, it's always through the lens of like, how do we take this magical thing we have here and just package it so somebody could just see it, glimpse it. Yeah. It's nearly impossible.
It is.
And even if I do the best video in the entire world, and like you do great videos, like they're engaging and captivating even, but it doesn't really let anybody know how magical this is.
Yeah. It's I would say frustrating, but it is to some degree because it's challenging. It's a better word to use, because it's funny, like, you came into this necessarily not knowing all of that yourself. You came in necessarily right through, you want to fight or whatever, and you had experience with martial arts as a kid.
That's a problem though for me. Like, I know what it's like to be a white belt, but not in the sense of like when you were a white belt. You know what it's like to come in as an adult, having never done this before. Like, even when I was a white belt in jiu-jitsu, I grew up in the martial arts. Like, I don't know what it's like to, like, even the first day I was having somebody like on top of me, sweating on me, like, there was nothing weird about that. Yeah. Like, those were not obstacles that I had to get over. So it's hard for me to empathize with somebody who's never done anything in their life.
Yeah. And a lot of it, I think, is self-confidence. Like, they don't necessarily have the self-confidence or whatever. But for me, I remember coming in, and why I came in and why I'm so addicted to many different things. I came in, I remember actually seeing the original UFCs and on the black box. Remember the black box? You ever hear those things? Right? We had a black box, right? And seeing that, I'm like, oh man, this thing jiu-jitsu is pretty cool. Like, you're like breaking bones potentially, or like doing all this. And then it went away from me for a long time. And then, I worked at World Wrestling Entertainment for a long time, worked with Brock Lesnar. And so I was like, right around 05, 06, Ultimate Fighter, and like, Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell. Like I
was Chuck Liddell for Halloween one year.
That's amazing. But seeing that and like, oh man, this is cool. Like I want to like learn how to like, break someone's arm. Like, like whatever. I was 29, 30 years old at the time. But I was, I grew up playing sports and something was missing. I'd go to the gym, but it was whatever, not necessarily very satiating or fulfilling. And I just remember coming and being like, oh yeah, like this looks cool. Like I want to try it. And then over time, seeing that it's something totally different, and it's.
Do you remember one time you said to me, I don't know if you remember, you must have been training for like 6 or 7 months. When you could see it was dawning on you what it really was, and like what it did for you. You were like, this is like you guys only charge this, like you could charge triple that. This is like, you're like, I would have,
like, because when you when you that perceived value on whatever that is, like it's so funny when people talk about price, like what you charge and everything else. And it's like, you're right. I remember that. I'm like, I would literally pay 3 or 4 times. I'd pay $1,000+ to come here absolutely, because it was so fulfilling and served so many things for me in terms of just life lessons and development. And it changed my life. Obviously, that's why I'm doing this. I quit everything else and did this because, and you're right. Like it's just difficult from a marketing standpoint because that's part of our business, right?
Well, man, one of the problems with the marketing is like if I wasn't trying to strangle you, you wouldn't be getting these same things. If I wasn't physically touching you, like how do we market that to somebody sitting on their couch? It's like a scary thing.
Yeah, it is.
The truth is, like, jiu-jitsu is, like you said, the word satiating. Like that's a good word for it.
Yeah.
Like you say fulfilling a lot and purposeful and things like that. But what does that mean? Like jiu-jitsu is satisfying all these like primal needs you have.
Yeah.
Up till 150 years ago, your body did these things. And that's what your body was meant to do. And I'm not saying like 150 years ago, you were hitting guillotines like in the woods.
Right.
But you were very physical. You were a physical thing. And life is easy now.
Yeah.
I get it. Life is hard in terms of like I have anxiety and I have stress.
But as humans over evolution,
as the human animal, life has never been this easy. It's too easy. And that your body, I think something's going on. Like something doesn't feel right. And then you train and you're like, everything kind of feels right now. Why? I don't really know. But it had something to do with the exertion, the physical contact, the confrontation of obstacles, like all these great things.
Research out there that backs all of that up, right? And it's something that I think I love hearing this from you though, in terms of that, because we just want to share it, right? We just want to go out there and we want to share this amazing lightning in a bottle kind of concept, right? This and just trying to crack that code and figure out what's the most effective way at reaching people and exposing this to them in a way that excites them and gets them to want to try and do it. And it's hard. I don't
think anybody on earth is better than Henry Gracie at doing it.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
I'm like always blown away. He explains it better. He does it only through the lens of self-defense though. Yeah. So it's not as metaphysical, I guess. And I don't really talk about self-defense much at all, although that is a big component of what we do, because I don't know that that's like really the most beneficial aspect of training.
Yeah.
It's what you're saying. Guys like you, like you're not going to be in a fight. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. And I hope you never are.
I've found that it's sometimes self-defense on the surface is what kind of gets people to initially like click or come in or whatever. And then it's really our responsibility to start to educate them and show them. And obviously the most powerful by far is word of mouth, is friends telling friends, and sharing that, getting them in and experiencing. But it's something that we always continue to, work on. And I know it's going to be something till the day I die, trying to figure out how to best effectively spread this information. For kids, obviously, and parents, obviously part of like these podcasts as well, starting to try and expose them and talk about topics and because it is, jiu-jitsu can be such a great complement or piece to helping kids as they're going through elementary school and middle school and being, helping to instill, some of these core values on everything. And for me growing up, that was, because I didn't have martial arts in my life growing up. To me, that was sports. Right. Sports was always, we were a sports family. You had a great coach. You learn some of these things about grit and about teamwork and about selflessness and all these things, which is also, again, the trends is like not as many kids are doing sports. You're dealing with screens and other things. So it's even more important now these days. What are some of the experiences you've had now, which obviously with your school and the kids and things? Have anything surprised you on as you've kind of continued on in terms of interactions with it? Or
I don't know if it's because the years are going on and like society is changing, or because the demographic is different. Yeah. But teaching a kids class is very different now. Like, so you got to think, when I first started at South Broad Street, RABJJ, it was all like super blue collar kids. A lot of them like rode their bikes through Trenton to get there. Took like 8-year-olds taking the bus through Trenton to get to class. Those kids were just nails, man. They were just blue collar work ethic. And so it was just a different set of problems to deal with. It's not that we're not dealing with the same kinds of problems. It's just my approach is a little bit different, I guess.
How's that?
I guess you could say I'm easier on the kids. I don't know. I just make jiu-jitsu do more of the work, right? Like I put the kids in the compromised positions. I put them in positions where they need to rise to the challenge. Whereas back in the day, like I could verbally like explain to these, like, you need to toughen up, man. Like you're tougher than this. And I just the kids don't respond as well to that kind of like diction anymore, like that verbiage. More now, and that's, I think maybe a big part of that is I'm just getting better at teaching. Maybe it's that. But now it's like having the kids overcome these things, go through the crucible that they didn't think they could do, and then afterwards point out what they just did.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that I agree with you. I think is, as we know, like you've got to go through these experiences. And I think what we try and do is put them through in these compromising positions or give them this adversity, but let them know, like, first, obviously establishing this is a safe place. Like you've got positive support. We're here. We're not like, it's not this negative thing. But I feel like when you put people in these adverse positions and you surround them with the support and the teachings and instruction and guidance,
you give them the tools.
You give them those tools, that positive reinforcement. And I think that that is all that recipe for growth, for teaching grit as well. I think that's
sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
But like one of my favorite metaphors is the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek.
Yeah.
But of course, what's in the cave? The drag, right? And
I heard you talking with Matakis about this.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot. But jiu-jitsu is, we're literally manufacturing a cave. It doesn't exist. We're making this cave. It's artificial. And that's like the training session, right?
Yeah.
And the treasure is the grit that you just talked about.
Right.
And then the dragon is, you're scared. You don't feel capable. You don't believe in yourself. But the sword in your hand is the class you just took.
Right.
The guard pass you just did. And you do this every day, man. You do this every day. And one of the things that all my kids can even tell you, which I'm proud of, is that when you see the dragon and you're too scared to confront him and you walk away, he grows. And then the next thing you know, we have adults who won't leave their house or have social anxieties that don't go. I have social anxiety, like I come from a family full, like riddled with depression, and I overcome it because the dragon didn't have a chance to grow and grow and grow. Like I get to confront it every day.
Yeah. So I started a nonprofit with one of my students here who is a pastor, and we're really focusing on, one of the areas we're focusing on is trying to help reduce instances of sexual misconduct. And that kind of, obviously, as it gets, you can attack it from different positions in terms of middle school boys and teaching them and understanding about healthy manhood, even dealing with adults. But with with kids, it's really right now, it's just getting very intentional with teaching character development. And so we did a ton of research on like, what are some of the things that are needed and what's going on. And like, really, this is a great study. I always talk about it because I love it beyond belief. There's a guy that's based in Harvard that's been doing this study. Well, he hasn't been doing it the whole time, but it's been going on for like 82 years. And they started with a group of sophomore men at Harvard University. One of them being, by the way, President John F. Kennedy is in the study. And they're still following them throughout adulthood. And obviously a lot of them have passed away. Some of them are still alive. And now they also have their offspring that are in the study. And it's the study's on adult development. And one of the things that they look at is what makes people happiest in life. What has made people happiest in life? And so obviously it had nothing to do with fame or fortune or anything else like that. So the biggest indicator of what made people happiest in life was their connection to others and the quality of those connections.
Right.
And we started looking into that even deeper. And it's like that character development, everything that we're teaching and all those little elements that we have in the school here, I think at the end of the day are helping people learn to build healthy relationships with others and themselves.
I love that.
And I found like, I've gone through bouts of just like anxiety. I started developing anxiety about 9-10 years ago when I started being an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for about 15 years, but it's funny, like
comes out of nowhere, right?
5 years in, or maybe 3 or 4 years in, all of a sudden I started feeling like I couldn't take deep breaths anymore.
Right.
I had like literally it felt like, and you hear people say this, but it's like, it's true. Like it feels like there's a vice on your chest. You just can't get a deep breath in, then it gets worse and worse. And just realizing it's just from all the stress or whatever it is. And you try and kind of push it back down and not deal with it. But
that works every time, right?
Yeah, right. Every time. Right. But, and so, the reality is like just coming here, taking your mind off of things, isolation kills. That's the other big thing they talk about. So like being able to come and be around others. Any therapist might tell you like exercise, try and get out of the house, be around others, like take your mind off of things, change your environment. Like these I think
there's something to the physical touch.
There is.
Like being 100%. Touched by a human.
Yeah. They're, the body releases, like they talk about the power of like a hug. Like when you hug, like your body releases, hormones and other things
because we're tribal creatures. You're being rewarded for that behavior.
Absolutely.
Because your body is thinking that you're performing well within the tribe. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You ever read Tribe by
No, I would love to though. I'm sure.
What's his name? Sebastian Younger.
No.
I mean, it's a great book. You could probably get away with just reading the first chapter. As many books, that tends to be the case. But he's like a war reporter. But he talks about the importance of tribalism and like how we're tribal creatures. Yeah. And it's all anecdotal, but he talks about like Native American culture, which is as tribal as it gets. And he gives examples of like, white settlers being taken and being assimilated into the tribe. And then when they try to take them back, they sneak out and rejoin because it's just like that mode of living is what
we're pack animals.
Like and he talks about how after catastrophic events like 9/11, like New York City after 9/11 was the most peaceful, loving place. And he talks about like Sarajevo, and he talks about like after an earthquake, where you would think it'd be like The Walking Dead, like looting and murdering, but it's quite the opposite. It's people coming together.
Yeah.
Beating down broken building in like the middle of the city, which is way below his means because he just loves knowing his neighbors.
Yeah.
And there's this weird isolationism that happens when you live in this big neighborhood in a big house. You don't even know your neighbor, but then you can come here. And I think maybe that's why like so many white collar guys love this so much.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
It is. It just, when we started doing all that research and seeing like what were the things that, were missing or what is the root of happiness in most humans' lives? It's connection with others and the quality of those connections. And so we looked at, well, what do we need to teach and instill in our kids and ourselves in order to develop those skills? Because part of it's a skill, you got self-awareness, right? Understanding who you are, what your goals are, like your strengths, your weaknesses, having humility at the end of the day,
Right.
Self-management, learning how to manage your stress and your time and your energy, and having, that sense of grit and stick. It's like learning to socialize with others and no, it's okay that there's, we have differences in opinion and perspectives and all those other things. And, one of the things I always love about obviously jiu-jitsu is like, man, race, religion, like that stuff never mattered on the mat. So it never does, right? It smashes all these concepts that like we're so divided. Like, dude, just I find it to be BS because again, it goes back to fear or pain or whatever it is, right? When people are so divisive, and there's some aspect of tribalism there as well, to us versus them sometimes.
Right.
But
tribalism can have a negative connotation.
Well, but and in that sense, I just mean in that sense of like, sports teams, right? We're Giants fans, right? Like, right.
It's hard to do this these days.
That's a whole nother conversation. But, you have all those things, but, again, teaching that social awareness and then social management, how to empathy. Yeah. Obviously with social awareness.
I don't know. I'm not a professional, but I would think that you're not going to sexually assault somebody if you view them as a person and you're capable of seeing life through their eyes.
Yeah, of course. 100%.
Just like you're not going to punch some guy in the bar because he's a human.
Yeah.
Like empathy.
Yeah. And so we found like all those things is like, those are the things we need to make sure we intentionally teach our kids for that.
Have you found like a way to do that, like a curriculum?
So right now we've been doing it as an after-school enrichment program with the school. So we started working with some of the school districts where we're taking 20 minutes and working specifically on that and doing like exercises and activities that work with that. And then also pairing it with some self-defense and jiu-jitsu. And what we always found is that you need a conduit. You need something.
I was gonna say an anchor. You need jiu-jitsu's the anchor.
Yeah. Whether it was sports, right? You need, and not only that, because I think you need, as the instructor, as the mentor, as whoever it is, you got to establish some level of connection and credibility with those kids before they start listening to you. So, and obviously I'm biased towards jiu-jitsu. I think that
as you should be,
as I should be, but so we've started doing it there, and it's, we just started this year and but it gets back to me, even just, we do that obviously anyway. I mean, you do that at the school and instilling those things here and there through the lessons, through the teachings, through your words, all those other things. I know, man, we're already going over an hour, so I want to cut to a couple things real quick and get your thoughts.
Rapid fire, let's go.
Rapid. No, we're not there yet. I want to ask you this. So this one, I want to talk to you about, because I think this is always like a hot topic about child development and sports and the idea of participation trophies and just that concept of teaching kids that level of competitiveness, but also being understanding of at what age do we start to let go of the hand holding, put them out there. What are your thoughts in general about, we hand out stripes, right? It's not necessarily competition. We do have competition in jiu-jitsu.
I mean, it's the carrot and the stick, right?
Yeah.
It's the basic underlying ways of motivating somebody.
Yeah.
That's the question though. It's not, man, I have little girls now. So like my thought on this is changing. Like I'm not against the participation trophy per se, because I mean, we got them too, right? Little league is over. You get the little mitt.
Right.
Even if your team didn't win.
Right.
But if your team wins, that's the bigger trophy, right?
Right.
Maybe that's where I stand.
Yeah.
Until a certain age, but what age, I don't know. I think it's important that the kids know you got to try and there is a winner. I think that's important.
I agree.
But even in like a jiu-jitsu tournament, like you see good refs at least, like they'll raise the winner's hand, show everybody, and then raise the other kid's hand. So in a way, that's like the jiu-jitsu version of a participation trophy. I don't have the answer, man, but as long as the kids are competitive and they learn how to navigate like the outcome, those feelings,
Yeah.
then we're doing our job. And I think sometimes the participation trophy, not keeping score, is not a good idea.
Yeah.
That I disagree with.
I agree. I disagree with that.
Everybody getting like a trophy for like doing their best is good, as long as there's some differentiation between who won and who didn't.
Yeah. Because
then the kids aren't learning how to navigate those negative feelings of I lost.
Yeah. I agree. And it's a complicated, I won't say a complicated answer. It's a complicated
We try to hide.
discussion.
You do it too, I guarantee it. And your instructors do. You try to hide. What do we tell the kids if they come up to you after training and say, I lost today? What do we say? In Randori, I lost.
Oh, there's no losing. There's just learning, right?
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
It is learning. But if you're really, really going to boil it all down, like you were, I guess, in a way defeated, right?
Yeah.
Like your partner executed the technique against your will. I think we're smart to say there's no losing, because you don't want to like break a little kid's heart.
Because it's the growth mindset approach in some ways, right?
Right. But what we have to be careful of is that we're not making them think it's okay to lay there and get armbarred 10 times.
Right.
Like, how do we navigate that? Like, how do we navigate the kid just standing in the outfield because it doesn't really matter? He's not invested in the outcome. That's what we have to figure out.
Right. I still think kids experience those emotions no matter what.
I know they're keeping score.
Yeah, of course. So my whole mindset on the kind of participation trophy is, I think in general, I want to always make sure that my kids and any kids in the academy, anyone in the community, that they associate initially when they're first being introduced to a sport, that they associate that with joy, that they enjoy going outside and playing football in the front yard or soccer or whatever, that it's fun, that it's, they going into a 4-year-old about like,
that's an important distinction. A 4-year-old or a 7-year-old.
Right. So there's
that 10-year-old.
Right. So like, where does that, and I think it's, like you said, maybe there's psychologists that can give us a better idea. And there's people that have just been doing it long enough to know. But I think in the beginning, call it from 4 to, I'm going to throw this out, from 4 to like 6.
Yeah.
I'm going to just, I think it's teaching them to love and have fun with the physical activity and competing. They know they naturally are going to know they want to be better than that other person. Right. And so I think then it's like, but they have to then start to learn and understand what it means to lose and to want to win and have that, competitive drive, so to speak. So I think there's, I just think initially that it's okay to have those when they're literally still just learning, solely for the fact to get them to love what to do, so that they, I hope that they take that into adulthood. Like, for instance, like I remember I went to this buddy's gym of mine, and he just had he had like a turf, and he had like a football in the corner and some other stuff. I'm like, and to me, it's like a playground. I'm like, oh man, like I just got so excited to like want to run around and throw the football and do whatever. Right. I just want kids to have that love with physical activity and sport, and whether it's jiu-jitsu. And then, once they have that to some degree, then you can start
tether them a little bit.
I don't know. That's just my thought.
I don't know if you see this. Like, how old are your kids?
Parker's about to turn 13.
Yeah.
And Macy's 11.
They're a little bit older now. So I have nephews, and they're really deep into sports, like year-round playing sports. And I see, man, like these kids are on the verge of anxiety attacks.
Yeah.
There's not even like really trophies going out or anything. They're anxious. Like even shooting hoops in the driveway. Like if you start pulling ahead in a game of horse, like he doesn't like it anymore. And like I see that in a lot of the kids in the neighborhood.
Yeah. There's I just had actually the previous guest I had on was she's the head of counseling for the school district. And we talked about this very topic. It wasn't related to sports. It was related to school.
Anxiety.
It was related to school. And I'm like, and she's like, there's definitely been over the past 15 years, 20 years, a major increase in kids developing anxiety and stress and all these things, and trying to like kind of nail down what it is. She said there's a lot of factors. I mean, I think that, you know, some of the things she talked about was obviously social media is like a big thing as well. And it's a big issue. And I think stress and anxiety, we all deal with it. It's like, there's no handbook, right? We're not ever taught in school or wherever how to manage our emotions and our stress to a certain degree, right? You know what I mean? Like, and we were having this discussion saying like, man, it would be great if we start to actually really work on those things at an early age. Are starting to really do it, and because they had to react to it or whatever, but they call it social emotional learning. Like that's a thing that the curriculum, and that's a lot of stuff that we're trying to do with our after school program. It's you know, trying to teach people how to manage these things. And the other thing I always talk about is like, we see these memes sometimes of these kids who are our age or whatever, grew up in the 80s and 70s and stuff. And like, everyone's so soft now. All these kids are being, you know, helicopter parent. I'm like, man, who do you think is raising them? What decade did they come from?
That's the funny thing about participation trophies.
Yeah.
The people that are complaining about it are like, you're the parents that the kids didn't come up with that idea.
Yeah. So it's a lot, you know,
Do you read Jonathan Haidt at all? Like Coddling of the American Mind?
No.
I highly recommend that book.
Yeah.
He wrote Happiness Hypothesis. I highly recommend that, especially with what you're doing.
Yeah.
But he looks back to like the mid 80s when they first started putting missing kids' faces on milk.
Yes, they were talking about this.
Changed everything.
Yes. 9/11 changed a lot.
So
that
one of the
changed
things is kids don't have unsupervised play.
Correct.
They don't know how to mitigate confrontation. So instead, like what happens is little kids who, when we would like get into it, argument, whatever on the playground, we figure it out.
Yeah.
Whether that's through social hierarchy or we wrestle around or whatever. Right. Now the kids are just good at finding the nearest adult and presenting their case. Yeah. They're little lawyers.
Yeah. I think times have just simply changed for multiple factors. Right. I agree. I remember she talked about that too. And I'm like, you're right. Like when they started putting the faces on the cards, that, you know, as parents, you start to worry about that. I think 9/11, we want to control our kids more. We want to protect because we're trying to protect
This is
them.
The safest it's ever been.
Yeah.
Your kids are not going to get abducted. However, if one kid gets abducted
everyone's going to.
It's your kid.
Yeah. It's
you blew it.
Yeah.
You blew it.
Yeah. And so I think that, you know, I think there's a lot of factors, obviously, in that, you know, so we want to be protective. We want to be controlling, but then now we're not letting our kids fail.
Right.
We're not letting our kids go through those things. And I think that's the concern is you got to let them fail. And it's funny. She was talking about this too. And just saying like, we've got to learn to let go and let our kids fail and learn these lessons.
Let them fall out of the tree.
And I think it goes back to why, again, I'm biased, but I think jiu-jitsu and having that environment of letting these kids go through adversity, letting them fail, but providing all of those positive reinforcement and lessons and learnings is I think just such a
covers all the bases.
It does.
Teach them how to defend themselves so they're confident. Yeah. Teaching them how to overcome like adversity, the carrot on the stick with the belt system, the social skills because they're making friends. It just it covers all the bases.
Yeah. So 2 more things. One is oh my God, we gotta come on in here. Bring her in for a second. Guess who just walked through the door? I don't want to mess up anyone. She's not gonna mess it up. I'm gonna turn to it real quick. Say hi. Oh, she's gonna mess it all up. Okay. Okay.
What's up, dude? How you doing?
We're live. Oh, what's up, Gracie? So obviously, fatherhood. Your oldest is how old now?
3.5.
3.5.
Yeah,
Scarlett. And the other one's name is
Avery. She's 1.5 years.
So how has fatherhood changed you in any way? I mean, what's kind of been some of the lessons there?
I mean, maybe one of the biggest thing is empathy. Like I can't even watch, man. I love nature documentaries. I can't watch them anymore because like I'll watch one where like the baby elephant doesn't make it through the drought and I'll cry myself to sleep. Like I can't. Like I just saw a video from Nature is Metal on Instagram yesterday where like a mom giraffe gives birth and there's lions, so she leaves the baby giraffe and like I can't, like it affects my day.
Yeah.
Empathy is probably the biggest thing. And then like love, like my girls have given me, like we talked about toxic masculinity, which I don't like that term.
Yeah.
Like that's a bit much. I think it's a little dramatic. I think there's jerks. There's jerks,
Yeah.
you know. But masculinity can, in a way, like I grew up in a tough guy kind of environment.
Yeah.
And like I chose a tough guy career. And like when my grandfather died in the parking lot to the wake, my father looked me in the eye, he shook my hand, didn't hug me, shook my hand and said, make sure you look people in the eye when you shake their hand today. That's like his emotion.
Yeah.
So my girls let me be emotional. Like I am emotional with my women. Like and it's been liberating.
Yeah.
I love it.
I find I after having kids, I was a lot more emotional. Like I cried a lot more on things. You just, I think because you're experiencing life and all these amazing things. And going back to the toxic masculinity, I agree. It's, I think that term is divisive. And I think whoever came up with it could have used maybe a better term to.
I think it's missing the point.
Yeah. Because it associates in saying that somehow inherently masculinity is toxic.
Right.
Which, and because I've done a lot of research with this not a call to men stuff, is they're not what they're trying to say, which I think they've done poorly, is they're not saying masculinity in of itself is toxic. They're saying is there are certain behaviors that come from masculinity that are there's a lot of amazing and incredible things, but then there's also these things that we've been socialized through generations, right? And through media on how we're supposed to act. Men are not allowed to really show vulnerability, or else it's considered to be like less than, or like all these things that,
and like chauvinism and things like that.
Yeah. So
like
it comes out in other ways, and it can also turn into objectifying women and all these other things. Right. And so that's where that type of behavior is damaging, not only to females, but really what they're saying is to the men, right? Because it's like you feel like you have to be this image and do these things, and if you cry or if you show this emotion, like you're less of a man. And so what do we do? We stuff that stuff in, and guys
it's gonna come out,
and so guys cope by drinking, by so like male suicides account for like 75% of all suicides. Wow. I don't realize that. Like, wow. So it's a big problem.
I wonder if that's a deep thing. How deep does that go? Like, why? What's the correlation?
Well, they think it's, again, because a lot of that stuff, because men don't necessarily.
I would say men are much more likely to be isolated.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Isolation kills. Like, so those things, and not sharing your thoughts and not necessarily.
Like, hey, man, let's hang out. I'm lonely, dude. Let's hang out, man.
Yeah. Women can do that more easily, right? They have their girlfriends, they talk, they share their feelings. Guys, it's harder for us to do it. Here, in my opinion, obviously, we hang out after. Oh man, my favorite time is like after this guy over here whoops my butt. He's gonna walk by right now. You see him? After he puts me in like 20 electric chairs.
Yeah.
We're done. We're just exhausted, and we have some of the best conversations on the mats afterwards.
Who can you trust more than your training partner?
Yeah.
Somebody that you've been doing that with. Like, come on. Like, you literally put your life in his hands.
Yeah.
You're sweating on him. You're all over him. Yeah. You're growing together. You're mutually invested in the outcome. And that's like as tight as you get.
Yeah. I agree with you. I mean, so the whole manhood thing and some of those things that they're very deep, very generational things are very real. And there are consequences to them that are honestly probably more harmful to men themselves. They don't even realize it. But that's why I think this is something that, whether for women or men, has been an incredible thing. But as a father, I agree, man. I just more aware of things, more empathetic, I think as a 20-year-old, there was a little bit more material on things, more selfish. Like I think you lose most, I can't say all, but most parents become a hell of a lot more selfless.
Oh yeah.
right? Because it becomes about them.
It's kind of forced,
yeah,
right?
but
you don't have a choice.
It's a great lesson.
You do have a choice. I take that back.
Yeah.
If you're a dirtball, if you're not a dirtball, you really don't have a choice.
Right.
You have to become selfless.
And that just makes you, in my opinion, obviously a better human, but also probably makes you happier too. You kind of learn some of those lessons. So, man, we can keep talking, but I got to cut it. You, by the way, hit the record. We're at 80 minutes so far.
Oh man!
And
sorry, man, I can yap.
No, I know it, but this has been awesome.
Yeah,
I really, anytime. I mean, there's so many more things to talk about. Yeah. But
we didn't talk about Matakis. We'll talk about him next time.
We didn't talk about Matakis, or we talked about some of the books you've been reading. But that's a whole. Maybe we can convince you and Matakis to come on together. Maybe
I'm not gonna. I will, but I won't talk. I'll just sit there.
All right. Well, I will too.
No, I'll try to get him on.
We'll get Turtle on. Maybe get a little round table.
That would
be amazing. That would be awesome. Professor, thank you again, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, dude.